The Canadian Prime Minister just said in Davos that America's global leadership is over. Well, he was talking specifically about the public goods we provide the world for free. Militarily and economically, though, we still dominate. Well, those public goods are, maybe were now, part of our global leadership post-World War II, which has prevented World War III and brought general prosperity and rule of law around the world. And now one madman president is tearing it all up. He's certainly making some much-needed changes. For instance, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says since 1980, the U.S. has spent $22 trillion more on defense than Europe. We pay for the peace of the world so Europeans can have free healthcare, and Trump is saying we're $38 trillion in debt. This is unsustainable. Time for some changes. And NATO countries have agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. Thanks, Trump. Yet Trump still says next year he wants to increase the U.S. military budget from $1 to $1.5 trillion. So this shift isn't about defense spending. And what you fail to realize is the reason we have all this debt and can just keep printing money is because the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency, meaning countries around the world keep large reserves of dollars and use dollars in trade, which keeps demand for our debt high. Yeah, but you'll see since 2000, U.S. assets as a percent of foreign reserves have gone from 72% to 58%. So the decline has been ongoing as more countries diversify assets. I think Biden seizing Russian assets in 2022 hurt our reserve status more than anything. Biden went after our enemies. Trump is going after our allies, leading to a Danish pension fund selling $100 million in treasuries. And Europe overall owns about $8 trillion of our debt, more than twice than the rest of the world combined. So if there's this massive Sell America event because Trump is trying to conquer Greenland, we will see interest rates soar. We will not be able to afford to service our debt, and the markets will crash. Yeah, Ken, do you remember Liberation Day? The markets crash. Everyone freaked out. It's the end of the world. Sounds like you right now. But then Trump, of course, art of the deal, did some pause and made some trade deals, and now we're back near record stock market highs. You forget NATO countries are still dependent on the U.S. economically and for defense. They can't afford to play around either. Well, you're right, and this is what the Canadian Prime Minister was saying. We created this interconnected world based on international law, free trade, and respecting sovereignty. But if that's torn up, the only people who will win are our actual enemies. Well, the current system has led to China manufacturing around 30% of the world's goods and mining over 90% of the world's rare earth minerals, among many other things, which we are far too dependent on them for. That's unsustainable, and Trump has been using tariffs to try to rebalance for the security of the free world. But he's put just as high of tariffs on our allies as he has our enemies, and our allies have thus far been reluctantly holding on until now. Trump is threatening to conquer a NATO territory, and the free world is united against us and is saying that's a red line, but Trump doesn't seem to give a shit, and now we are losing our global dominance. I think spending $22 trillion more on defense over the past 25 years should give us a little leverage. Yeah, it's called our reserve currency status that you're about to kick away for an island of ice. That's melting, just like U.S. supremacy. No, again, these changes are needed to ensure our long-term supremacy. Oh, Lord, we've seen this before. Read a history book. Shut up.
All right, guys, and let's get right into it because we are live. Yo, this is Set with Set Media, guys, and I'm back with another one for you. All right, guys, we're about to get into Trump at the Economic Forum. So let's not forget to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation. Let's make it fun, guys. Now, let's get right into it.
In July, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. We also provided 100% expensing. That's the one they like. And bonus depreciation for all new equipment and capital investments to help companies expand and shift production to America. They are so in love with that. They build a plant, they're able to deduct it immediately, the whole thing, rather than waiting 38 to 41 years in the old days. This is a miracle taking place. Nobody thought it would ever be done by any country, but it's done by us. Was what made my first term the most successful 4-year term that we've ever had from a financial standpoint. And now we've upped it. This is a 10-year program, not a 1-year program, but you're allowed to deduct everything in 1 year. It used to be 38 to 41 years. With tariffs, we've radically reduced our ballooning trade deficit, which was the largest in world history. We were losing more than $1 trillion every single year. And it was just...
Yeah, it was $1.2 trillion trade deficit that we were dealing with, and we were able to cut that in half under Trump due to tariffs, which the Dems were fear-mongering all last year about a recession and, out of control price raising. But did any of that happen? No. So, hey, looks like Trump was right on that note.
It's wasted. It was going to waste. But in 1 year, I slashed our monthly trade deficit by a staggering 77%. And all of this with no inflation, something everyone said could not be done. There were a couple of brilliant people that actually thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing. Now they all think I'm doing the right thing because they can't believe the numbers. American exports are now up by more than $150 billion. Domestic steel production is up by 300,000 tons a month, and it's doubling over the next 4 months. It's doubling and tripling, and we have steel plants being built all over the country. Nobody thought they'd see that. Factory construction is up by 41%, and that number is really going to skyrocket right now because that's during a process that they're putting in to get their approvals, and we've given very, very quick, fast approvals. In the process, we've made historic trade deals with partners covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Some of the greatest companies and countries in the world. We have countries as our partner, too. The European nations, Japan, South Korea. They're our partners. They've gone into massive deals with us, especially on oil and gas. And these agreements raise growth and cause stock markets to boom, not only in the U.S., but virtually.
Yeah, a lot of the investments that Trump is talking about do come from, well, the fact that these guys are promising to purchase American energy and American arms as well.
Every country that came to make a deal, because as you've learned, when the United States goes up, you follow. It's really become a staple. In America, I've stopped the nation-wrecking energy policies that drive up prices while sending jobs and factories to the world's worst polluters. They are indeed polluters. Under sleepy Joe Biden, new domestic oil and gas leases fell by 95%. Think of that. And they wonder, why was gasoline going up so fast? The gasoline actually topped $5 a gallon, and some places $7 a gallon, and more than 100 major power plants were violently shut down by incompetent people that had no idea what the hell they were doing. Under my leadership, U.S. natural gas production is at an all-time high by far. U.S. oil production is up by 730,000 barrels a day, and last week we picked up 50 million barrels from Venezuela alone. Venezuela has been an amazing place for so many years, but then they went bad with their policies. 20 years ago, it was a great country, and now it's got problems, but we're helping.
Yeah, they went all socialists, then America imposed sanctions on them, and they really never recovered from that. But really, it's because of their socialist economy. And I mean, what was it? The Chavez regime, which turned into the Maduro regime, which really didn't help the people of Venezuela out at all.
Them and those 50 million barrels, we're going to be splitting up with them, and they'll be making more money. But they've made it a long time. Venezuela is going to do fantastically well. We appreciate all of the cooperation we've been giving. We've been giving great cooperation. Once the attack ended, and they said, let's make a deal. More people should do that. But Venezuela is going to make more money in the next 6 months than they've made in the last 20 years. Every major oil company is coming in with us. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing.
And if you're wondering how Venezuela is going to make money, we're going to increase their oil production. Yes, increase the oil production, pretty much double it. And instead of all the money pretty much going to the top, with which was happening under the Maduro regime, because they was illegally selling it to China, Russia, and Iran. Yes, they was illegally selling their oil, and it wouldn't be, well, the wealth wouldn't be dispersed to the people. It would just be kept up top with the regime. Now, what Trump is promising is that not only he's going to double the oil output, which means more money is going to be made in Venezuela, but he also is promising to actually spread that out to the people of Venezuela. Instead of being under this socialist regime that they were under, or that they're kind of still are under, instead of having them hoard all the money up top. Which is crazy because they're socialists. So you would think that, they'd be actually want to give out all the money. But if you actually look at where all the money leads to in the Maduro regime, it's the top.
The leadership of the country has been very good. They've been very, very smart. The price of gasoline is now below $2.50 a gallon in many states, $2.30 a gallon in most states. Then we'll soon be averaging less than $2 a gallon. In many places, it's already down even lower, $1.95 a gallon. Numerous states are at $1.99, numbers that nobody has heard for years. Actually, since my last administration, we got it down to around those numbers. I've signed an order directing and approval of many new nuclear reactors. We're going heavy into nuclear. I was not a big fan because I didn't like the risk, the danger, but they have the progress they've made with nuclear is unbelievable, and the safety progress they've made is incredible. We're very much into the world of nuclear energy.
Yeah, we need it.
And we can have it now at good prices and very, very safe. And we're leading the world.
And if you're not understanding the angles of, these nuclear facilities, or basically these mini nuclear reactors, which these data centers are going to need to incorporate so they're not dragging on the local energy, thus driving up prices or electric prices for, the locals that's living around the data centers. And this actually been happening throughout the United States, where there'd be a data center put there, and pretty much all the locals who live around that data center pretty much paying double in electricity because of how much electricity the data center's taking up. And I mean, data centers do give out jobs, but not that much to where everybody can now just afford doubling in their electric bill. But this is what these mini nuclear reactors would solve. They'd be able to create their own energy without drawing on the energy source that the American people also rely on.
In
Great.
AI by a lot. We're leading China by a lot. I think President Xi respects what we've done, in part because I've allowed these big companies building these massive buildings to build their own electric capacity. They're building their own power plants, which when added up is more than any country anywhere in the world is doing. I read recently an article in the Wall Street Journal that China's creating so much energy, and they are. I got to hand it to them. But we're creating as much or more, and we're letting them do that. I'm very proud of it. It was my idea. I said, you can't create this much energy. We needed more than double the energy currently in the country just to take care of the AI plants. And I said, we can't do that. We have an old grid system. And I came up with the idea, you people are brilliant. You have a lot of money. Let's see what you can do. You can build your own electric generating plants. And they looked at me. They didn't believe me. All of the names that are, I think, in the room right now, if you want to know the truth, they didn't believe it. And I said, no, you can't. They came back 2 weeks and they didn't have the plant. They said, we thought you were kidding. I said, no, not only am I not kidding, you're going to have your approvals within 2 weeks. I always say nuclear will take 3 weeks, but most aren't going that. They're going oil and gas. They're even going coal in some cases. Because of my landslide election victory, the United States avoided the catastrophic energy collapse, which befell every European nation that pursued the Green New Scam, perhaps the greatest hoax in history. The Green New Scam, windmills all over the place, destroy your land. Destroy your land. Every time that goes around, you lose $1,000. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money.
Yeah, that is the problem, though. We are losing money with green energy when you're actually supposed to make money. It's supposed to make energy more affordable, but it hasn't. I mean, I guess it, it relieves some of the carbon footprint we leave behind, but at the expense of the American people. And we're not really gaining anything from having these windmills and, solar panel farms all over the place. Why? Because we're not the one making them anyway. Now, if we were the one making them, maybe we'd figured out some type of new technology to make them better, but we're not the ones making them. Majority of the time, it's China that's the one making them. We're talking about the windmills and the solar panels. So we're pretty much feeding into China's economy when we feed into this whole green energy initiative, which it doesn't have to be like that, but it's just the way it's set up right now.
Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's not the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. But what they did before he got there, I guess that's why he got there. And electricity prices are 64% higher The United Kingdom produces just 1/3 of the total energy from all sources that it did in 1999. Think of that, 1/3. And they're sitting on top of the North Sea, one of the greatest reserves anywhere in the world, but they don't use it. And that's one reason why their energy has reached catastrophically low levels with equally high prices. High prices, very low levels. Think of that, 1/3. And you're sitting on top of the North Sea. And they like to say, well, you know, that's depleted. It's not depleted. It's got 500 years. They haven't even found the oil. The North Sea is incredible. They don't let anybody drill. Environmentally, they don't let them drill. They make it impossible for the oil companies to go. They take 92% of the revenues. So the oil companies say, we can't do it. They came to see me. Is there anything you can do? I want Europe to do great. I want UK to do great. Sitting on one of the greatest energy sources in the world, and they don't use it. In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%.
True. I mean, yeah, because they don't use the energy wealth that they have. Yes, their oil prices rise because they're trying to go into this green initiative, even though they're honestly not prepared for it. They want to fake like they got the advanced technology for it. But I mean, when you're putting it on the backs of your people and their energy prices are going up, and you got people in y'all countries going without electricity and heat, I mean, is it really worth it? And some of them say yes.
There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that? It's a good way of looking at it. They're smart. China's very smart. They make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin. They don't do anything. They use a thing called coal mostly. But China goes with the coal. They go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear a little bit, and they're doing just fine. They make a fortune selling the windmills, though, and I think really that's one that they wouldn't be surprised if it stopped. They are shocked that it continues to go. They're very friendly with me. They're shocked that people continue to buy those damn things. They killed the birds. They ruin your landscapes. Other than that, I think they're fabulous, by the way. Stupid people buy them. The consequences of such destructive policies have been stark, including lower economic growth, lower standards of living, lower birth rates, more socially disruptive migration, more vulnerability to hostile foreign adversaries, and much, much smaller militaries. The United States cares greatly about the people of Europe. We really do. I mean, look, I am derived from Europe, Scotland and Germany, 100% Scotland, my mother, 100% German, my father. And we believe deeply in the bonds we share with Europe as a civilization. I want to see it do great. That's why issues like energy, trade, immigration, and economic growth must be central concerns to anyone who wants to see a strong and united West, because Europe and those countries have to do their thing. They have to get out of the culture that they've created over the last 10 years. It's horrible what they're doing to themselves. They're destroying themselves. These beautiful, beautiful places. We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones. We want Europe to be strong. Ultimately, these are matters of national security, and perhaps no current issue makes the situation more clear than what's currently going on with Greenland. Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland?
Please.
I was going to leave it out of the speech, but
everybody on the edge of their seat.
I think I would have been reviewed very negatively. I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people.
Oh, guys, let's not forget to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. I'm under a shadow ban right now on YouTube, so let's make sure we beat the algorithm by double tapping that screen and liking the video.
of Denmark, tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting.
Damn.
And was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled. We did it. We felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory. And hold it we did at great cost and expense. They didn't have a chance of getting on it, and they tried. Denmark knows that. We literally set up bases on Greenland for Denmark. We fought for Denmark. We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice.
With a whole lot of natural resources.
But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now, you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. 2 weeks ago, they saw weapons that nobody ever heard of. They weren't able to fire one shot at us. They said, what happened? Everything was discombobulated. They said, we've got them in our sights. Press the trigger, and nothing happened. No anti-aircraft missiles went up. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed down right next to the people that sent it. They said, what the hell is going on?
When the United States hit Venezuela, it made Russian technology look bad. It made Russian military tech look bad. It made Chinese military tech look bad. And it made Iranian military tech look bad because they were using Iranian drones, Russian missiles, and missile defense systems. They had Chinese missiles and Chinese radars that was supposed to detect the United States coming in, but it didn't. So yeah, Trump made made China and Russia's military weaponry look completely useless. Now, people are also saying that it's sabotage. Like, somebody sold out the Maduro regime, so they turned off the radar and all that good stuff. Or it could be that, well, our military technology is just that great. Who knows?
Those defensive systems were made by Russia and by China. So they're going to go back to the drawing boards, I guess. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory. It's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. That's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. When we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason, everyone talks about the minerals. There's so many places. There's no rare earth, no such thing as rare earth. There's rare processing, but there's so much rare earth. And to get to this rare earth, you got to go through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere. And we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries. You know, for 2 centuries, they've been trying to do it. They should have kept it after World War II, but they had a different president. That's all right. People think differently. Much more necessary now than it was at that time, however. In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%. There's no sign of Denmark there. And I say that with great respect for Denmark, whose people I love, whose leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired, there's nothing wrong with it. Many of them, some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great, vast wealth, great, vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse. They're stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance, the NATO alliance. The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I want to tell you that. And when you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so little in return. And I've been a critic of NATO for many years. And yet I've done more to help NATO than any other president by far, than any other person. You wouldn't have NATO if I didn't get involved in my first term. The war with Ukraine is an example. We are thousands of miles away, separated by a giant ocean. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. You can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media is terrible. It's very crooked. It's very biased, terrible. But someday it'll straighten out because it's losing all credibility. Think of it. When I went in a landslide, a giant landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything, and I only get negative press. That means that it has no credibility. And if they're going to get credibility, they're going to have to be fair. So you need a fair press. But you also need those other elements. And I inherited a terrible, terrible situation. If you look, the border was open. The inflation was raging. Everything was bad with the United States when I came into office. But I also inherited a mess with Ukraine and Russia, something that would have never happened. And I know Putin very well. He and I would discuss Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, but he wasn't going to do anything. I said, Vladimir, you're not doing it. He would never have done it. It was terrible what happened. I could see it happening, too. After I left, I could see it happening. Biden had given Ukraine and NATO $350 billion, a staggering sum, $350 billion. I came in, and just like the southern border, just like inflation, just like our economy, I said, wow, this place is in trouble, meaning our country. All of these things were out of control. But the border was out of control. We fixed it with the strongest border anywhere in the world. And I've now been working on this war for